Hello, today for review I've got Kinera's Nanna. It's their new flagship, triple hybrid with dynamic driver, balanced armatures and double electrostatic tweeters. Actually, probably electret is more correct word because it's self-biased electrostats. Kinera is pretty well known as a company that could do really interesting and nice, well-tuned, unusual sound. I already reviewed few their models. Affordable ones like Sieve and Seed, and also more expensive Idun limited edition, and it was really nice. So of course I was really excited to try their new flagship offering advanced technologies. I think that 2019 could be called the year of unusual tweeters, because we received a lot of interesting drivers in this year, electrets, piezo tweeters and so on. Price is $900. I'm not sure is it official. Actually, it's the last price that was mentioned on the Kinera's Facebook. I will recheck it, and if I was wrong I will correct it in this video comments. I will put links to the shop and to the official site in the description, and let's have a closer look. Kinera uses unusual hexagonal boxes for their in-ear monitors, but for flagship they've decided to make it bigger, and I think that their smaller version of box was more attractive, but still it's looking unusual and because of that nice. So technical specifications: 110 decibels of sensitivity, 60 ohms of impedance, so they will require some not super powerful, but a bit more powerful than regular smartphones, some DAB, wide frequency range. All other specs are pretty common, so they use, as usual, they are featuring final audio silicon tips and Sony drivers. Let's see what we'll have inside. Small promotional booklet with links to the Kinera's social networks and a lot of tips. So as you can see, 2 pairs of foams and 10 pairs of silicons, cleaning tool and 6.3mm adapter. Also you'll have nice leather case for storage, and inside you will have in-ear monitors themselves with a stock cable. As you can see, accessory set is pretty decent. In terms of design, it's a typical modern in-ear monitor. They are made of resin and they are made really nicely. Unusual deep blue color. They are a bit transparent, so inside you can, actually maybe not on video, but in real life you can see the balanced armature driver, dynamic driver, this electrets and their energizer, so everything is here. Shape is really ergonomic. They are not big, so they will fit nicely into almost any ears. As you can see, really stylish faceplates with some swirls on them, and model's name written in cursive. Ergonomic shape, nicely extended spout, so sound isolation is even a bit above average. There is no traditional lip for holding the tips, but end of spouts are wider than middle part, so I suppose it will work as a lip and tips will be hold well. 3 bores in each spout, so all 3 drivers go separated, and there is a filter in one of bores. Others are filterless, or maybe filters are installed deeper, so I'm not sure about construction because they are not really transparent. Currently tips are holding really well, and cables are made replaceable. Here is pressure relief hole. Cables are made replaceable, used a bit recessed 2-pin socket. Really traditional, it holds really well, so I think it will serve you for a long time. And they've used a bit unusual cable. There is ear hooks, of course, without memory wire, and it's not braided. As you can see, 1 cable for each ear, so 2 conductors are braided inside of the cable. It's pretty soft, almost zero microphonic, pretty thick, and it's not easy to tangle, so it tangle prone probably we can say. Splitter, and after splitter it goes winded down below to the jack. So, nice metal jack with carbon insert, looks really attractive. So in general, in terms of design, in terms of build quality, it's really well done model. Maybe, nothing really breathtaking, but really solidly built, well done, and looks like all other flagship models actually on the market. And of course, about the sound, Kinera decided to go more in natural style, but they thought that totally natural in-ear monitors would be a bit dull, so they've added a pinch of sub-bass, added a bit of weight to the lower frequencies, and they've saturated treble. But let's go probably step by step, as I usually do. We need some player to show examples, and let's proceed. So bass is good dynamic driver, low frequencies going really deep and accenting deeper layers of bass. So probably mid bass is a bit accented and even deeper layers. So accent isn't big by amount on the frequency response, but at the same time in-ear monitors put a bit of additional weight to this part of sonic spectrum, and this gives a bit of actually, not a warmer sound, but a bit of massive sound. But at the same time, thanks to the good mid resolution, they are not sounding too muddy or too dull. So it's kind of pretty natural low frequencies, but with added fun. And it's suiting both to synthesized low frequencies and to real instruments, but for the real instruments they a bit highlighting them and put a bit of emphasis to them. So I will show an example. It's pretty traditional, not this one. So it's Musica Nuda and No Sunshine. It's my traditional example of good low frequencies, and acoustic double bass here sounding really nice, really engaging thanks to the good resolution on the low frequencies and nice texturing that this in-ear monitors shows. Acoustic bass sounding really realistic, but because of that added weight it's sounding a bit bigger than its sound in other in-ear monitors. It's probably not suiting everyone's taste, but it's really enjoyable. And with synthesized bass, like with some electronic music, for example, it's sounding really engaging and really superb. It's probably my type of bass head tuning, so I'm not a fan of accented low frequencies, but this kind of accent sounding nice to my ears. And at the same time lows are controlled pretty well, so they don't shadow mids. Maybe on the most bassiest tracks it's possible, but I don't have any single track in my library. Mids are resolving really clean and clear, so Kinera found some good balanced armatures for them, and they managed to tune it properly, because usually single dynamic driver means lacking of weight and means lacking of proper emotions, lacking a bit of macro dynamics on the mid frequencies, but not in this case. I don't know how did they tune crossover here, but mids here really saturated, a bit for highlighting micro contrast, but at the same time sounding really crisp, really clear. Think like good balanced armatures with nice resolution, maybe a bit too picky for the quality of records, but anyway, if you buy $900 in-ear monitors, probably you have to expect that these in-ear monitors will be picky to the record quality, and you will have to find proper mastering, proper tuning, and at the same time, if you find proper record and if you find the proper source, they will reward you with a lot of details, with a lot of that smallest nuances and so on. Also, I must admit that they are really coherent. There is driver overlaps are almost not noticeable, as it happens in some more affordable hybrids. So really coherent and really well tuned. So once again, hats off for Kinera. I'm sure that they have someone who knows how to tune in-ear monitors. Imaginary stage is noticeably above average. Maybe it's not the biggest stage like in top of the line in-ear monitors like Han or Mason, but still pretty big, so noticeably bigger than average. And what is more important, they build it in really realistic way, without exaggeration, without additional highlighting of that. So it's staging and three-dimensional positioning sounding really natural here. And as an example here, I've got another track that I really like. It's Hugh Laurie. Have you seen the trailer of his new TV series about the spaceship that will be premiered next year? I'm really waiting for it. But unfortunately that means no more musical albums in near future. But I still believe that Santa Claus, maybe not this year, maybe next year, will bring one more album, at least one more album by Hugh Laurie. But I really like his music, and Battle of Jericho, it's another great example. His version of famous track also has really great acoustic double bass recorded here, and this in-ear monitors plays it really nicely, but also a bit adding a bit of size to it. And vocal sounding really lifelike, really realistic. Vocal here recorded really nicely. It's saturated with overtones, it's saturated with emotions, and these in-ear monitors do that in a really impressive way. And of course, probably the most important part, actually, it's treble, and it's definitely clear win here. But you know, I've tested only few models with double Sonion electrostatic or electret tweeters, and all three models offered pretty similar treble. And this one isn't an exception. You will have crazy resolution on the treble, really good extension, noticeably above the average in-ear monitors, and you will have the layering, really good layering. So treble here is all another really good side, and you will have good layering, so all overtones that different instruments have will be separated and will be played, and it will give you additional sense of presence and sense of realism. So with some chamber music, with some complex instruments like fortepiano, violins, all that live instruments that have a lot of high harmonics, it will be sounding really nicely and engaging. Of course, if you are treble sensitive, you need to listen them before buying, because they don't try to hide the treble. But at the same time, you know, they are not harsh and they are not sibilant, unless of course it's present in the record. So they just play in treble as is, and if record is sibilant, we will play that. But at the same time, treble sounding pretty natural, and because of that, it's not sounding fatiguing and unnatural. Well, at least for me, because of course we all have different perception. And as an example for this part of Sonic Spectrum, I've got remastered version of another absolute classics. It's Stairway to Heaven, Led Zeppelin, you know, really, well, maybe not the perfect remaster, it could be better, but still I'd say acceptable. And of course I picked this because of guitar in the beginning, and this guitar has a lot of overtones, and this in-ear monitors play it really nicely. Speaking about of pairing, of course 60 ohms of impedance is a bit higher than average, but at the same time, you know, it's not too high, because almost every modern player will nail them in terms of power easily. But at the same time, of course, there is no sense in using them with smartphones or tablets or with entry-line dubs, because they require something at least mid-level or even middle up tier, so they're perfect dubs that will show their full potential in terms of resolution, in terms of control, lies somewhere in range from, I don't know, iBasso DX160 and up to probably iBasso DX220, because for example, Hybe R5 isn't the best choice for them because Hybe has recessed treble, and no sense in buying in-ear monitors with great treble and pairing them with players that reduce this part of sonic spectrum. So to summarize everything, of course, this is the model for those who like treble, for those who need it to be rich, saturated, and it should be paired with some neutral, or maybe bright source won't be perfect pairing for them too, so something neutral with really good control. But at the same time, Kinera added a bit of additional weight for them to sounding more fun and a bit more engaging than in real life. So it's an unusual tuning, leaning towards neutrality but avoiding being 100% natural, and it's really enjoyable. And briefly about comparisons, just few models of similar price range, and of course the most interesting it's two Shozi Polas, regular and 39, because they also features electret tweeters and have the same price range more or less. So actually regular Pola is tuned really different. They have softer upper mids, and because of that this and bigger bass with a bit less resolution, so it's like warmer and more differently tuned. Shozi's Pola 39 is closer in terms of tuning, but it has more weight on mids and treble compared to the Kinera, and at the same time it has less weight on the low frequency, so Pola is a bit more natural tuned with a bit of added weight, Pola 39. Well, what else we can mention? Of course, Andromeda is also different, especially it's noticeable on the low frequencies, because Andromeda's lows are drier. Even Andromeda Gold with more balanced armatures, it's still balanced armatures, and lows there has faster attacks and decays. Mids are a bit more weighty on the Andromeda, and treble is also different. It's a bit more focused on the micro detalization, but at the same time is a bit less saturated with overtones. So to summarize everything, I really like the idea of using electret tweeters more and more. Probably, I prefer piezo super tweeters a bit more because I like the sound a bit more, but models with electret super tweeters are also really enjoyable, and if you like treble saturated with overtones, it's a really good choice. And Kinera's Nanna is a really unusual model because it's not tuned to be 100% monitoring, but at the same time it's natural but not too dull, and thanks to this added accent sounding a bit funnier than natural models, and I think it's the tuning that many will like. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.